Hello, I'm Denise Galoni. Welcome to today's episode of Empowering You. My guest today is Darlene Baruso-Kruth, who's a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services and also sits on many boards that offer scholarships. Darlene has an amazing story, an amazing journey of how she got started. I can't wait for you to meet her. My guest today is Darlene Baruso-Kruth, a native Pittsburgher who started her professional career with a Bachelor's of Science degree in accounting from Duquesne University. Is a certified public accountant and is now a full-time multi-million-dollar producing real estate agent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, the Preferred Realty, formerly known as Northwood Realty Services. Lessons learned during 20 years of experience in corporate America taught her that to be successful, you must be a team player and exceed client expectations. Darlene specializes in assisting her clients in finding the perfect homes to meet all of life's changing needs. She is relocation certified and can help you, your loved ones, friends, and colleagues move just about anywhere in the world. If you're not ready to buy, Darlene can also assist you in finding a rental property to meet your current needs. She will cross the rivers in Pittsburgh and the bridges to find the perfect home for her clients. Darlene married her husband, Frank, in 1995, enjoys cooking and entertaining family, friends, colleagues, and networking partners, and supports Pittsburgh's cultural arts and sports team. She is also a recent breast cancer survivor, having forged her battle during COVID in 2020. In her spare time, she volunteers with several local nonprofit organizations and has found and nurtured a passion for student scholarship creation and administration that began in the late 1980s. Darlene currently serves on 7 scholarship and award boards selection committees that distributes between $200,000 to $300,000 to deserving students who want to pursue both post-secondary education at colleges, universities, and trade schools. She even has 3 new scholarship programs in the works for 2023. I can't wait to hear about those. One for students studying entrepreneurship in Washington and Jefferson College, in memory of a dear friend and fellow real estate colleague. One in memory of a Peters Township business owner to benefit residents of the Washington City Mission, and one for the Pittsburgh Elevated Emerging Leaders Organization. Welcome, Darlene.
Thank you for having me, Denise. I'm happy to be here tonight.
Well, thank you for being here in her spare time. That cracked me up, Darlene, because I've known you for years and I didn't know you had spare time.
Oh, I use it wisely. Let's put it that way.
Okay, you're the expert on time management and multitasking. So let's start at the very beginning. So you went to Duquesne, you graduated with a degree as a certified public accountant. Mm-hmm. How did you get from there to being a realtor?
Well, I spent 20 years working in my field as an auditor for 3 different institutions here in Pittsburgh: Arthur Andersen, PPG Industries, and PNC Bank. And then in 2005, 2006, I actually ended up getting laid off from the bank and decided that it was time to make a shift in my career and do something, a little different. Right. So I went and took the coursework to get my real estate license. And in June of 2006, I hit the ground running.
And the rest is history.
Absolutely.
So I know you love being in real estate.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. What do you love best about being in real estate? To me, it seems like such a hard job.
It is a very difficult job at times.
Right.
What's interesting about it is I love helping my clients. I love educating them and serving as their advocate throughout the process from beginning to end. And my job doesn't necessarily end when I walk away from the closing table. I am your realtor for life. For example, a client reached out to me earlier this week. He was trying to complete his Homestead Act exemption application, and he needed some information. So of course I looked it up for him, got him what he needed, and sent it back to him. He bought his house, 6 or 8 months ago, and he still knew that he could reach out to me for help. I just enjoy seeing people realize their dreams, of either home ownership, or if it's somebody who's selling a home to downsize or to move south or whatever they want to do. It just makes me feel really good that I was able to help them through the process.
Right, definitely. It's a huge investment buying a home. You have to have someone you can trust, or someone that's recommended. I would guess you would get a lot of referrals from your clients.
I do get a lot of referrals from my clients, not only my clients, but my service partners as well, and my networking partners, because my service partners, I have to know, like, and trust them in order to
Sure.
refer my clients to them, to help them through the process, because it's not just me and the buyer or me and the seller. You've got lenders involved, home inspectors, title companies, any number of other service providers in the chain of the process that need to help us out.
And you mentioned networking. Anyone in the Pittsburgh area, because we're both in the Pittsburgh area, I'm sure recognizes you because you are out there all the time networking, meeting people, going to events, trying to support all your friends. We all appreciate, because you're everywhere, Darlene. You really try to go out there and support people, and I think that just shows how genuine you are as a person and caring person.
Well, thank you. I did some of the networking partners tease me a little bit, because if I can't make something, it's most likely only because I'm at another event, and I can't clone myself. I can't be in 2 places at once.
Not yet. That would be great if we could clone ourselves.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So we have a lot of people that will watch this show. Some people may be wanting to sell a home. Some people may be wanting to buy a home, all types of different situations. So right now, is it a buyer's market, a seller's market? Can you still refer to it that way? Or is that something of the past, like pre-COVID?
We still do refer to it that way, but right now I'm going to take the high road and say it's somewhere in between.
Mhm.
because partly because of the mortgage rates creeping up quite a bit in the last several months. The buyers are sort of backing down, and the sellers are a little hesitant on their side of the equation to put their house on the market, because they're afraid they can't find something else to buy.
Right.
There's still we're still in a situation with multiple offers in some cases. If a really nice house hits the market and it's in good shape, and you've got 2 days full of showing after showing after showing, you're going to get multiple offers. If it's not in the best shape, it might sit for a while. So it just depends.
Yeah, because I always get something in my neighborhood. So I live in Bethel Park. It's showing the homes in our neighborhood that's selling. Some of them are, it's unbelievable. They're selling for $20,000, $30,000 over the asking price. Is that because there's a shortage of homes right now?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you get into a bidding war, you're more than likely going to end up over asking, and in some cases, well over asking. Some in our offices, my colleagues are reporting $50,000, $60,000 over asking.
That's crazy. It's just
is
unbelievable. Unbelievable. Did COVID change a lot of this? Did it have an impact?
It absolutely did. From the standpoint of what people are actually looking for in their next home, because think about it, for a year and a half, if you have children, you had them being homeschooled basically.
Right.
So you might not have space for that. You had to create a space for that. Or you might have, a couple, husband and wife, working from home. I know even in my case, my husband was using our office and I was using the dining room table.
Right.
Working from home. So sometimes you don't realize what you don't have until you absolutely need it. And it changes your perspective on the size of the home that you're in, and what it has and what it doesn't have.
Dawn, can you just give us 3 quick tips for someone that wants to sell their house right now? How can they get it ready to get the best offer for their home? Like 3 just quick things they can do.
Well, the first thing that I always tell my clients is curb appeal, because you only get one chance to make a good first impression. So when the buyer pulls up in front of your house, you want your house to pop.
Right.
So, if it means pressure washing your siding, or putting some new shutters on, or painting your front door, or if it's, coming into April, May, making sure you've got flowers planted, and bushes are trimmed and things like that. That's the first thing I tell my buyers. Okay. The second thing I tell them is to be proactive about my recommendations when I come into your home and say, okay, I think this might be an issue on inspection or it might be an issue on appraisal. I tell them to be proactive and try to address it ahead of time so
Okay.
that we can get over that hurdle or not have that hurdle, you know,
Right.
2 weeks or 3 weeks into the transaction. And basically I tell them on any given day, once your house is listed, it needs to be show ready. And
Mm.
by show ready, I mean beds made, no dishes in the sink, toilet seats down, you know, it has to be show ready. I can't tell you over the years how many houses I've walked into and they're just like they look like a hurricane came through.
Right. And it makes a difference. Like,
It
even though you know that
absolutely
your
makes a
house is
difference.
going to be that's their stuff, it makes a difference because you're like, oh, look at this.
Absolutely. And the other thing too is something you might not think about is make sure your closets are organized, because every buyer is going to open a closet to see how big it is or how, you know, and if they open it and things fall out,
Because
that
everything's pushed in there.
tells them that there's not enough storage space in this house. And, you know,
And
in
that's
most
a great
cases.
point. Is that's to clean, tidy up. We sometimes we do like push stuff like under beds and closets, and that's a really good point. And the
Mhm.
curb appeal I really like, because I know when I was looking for a home years and years ago, we pulled up to a few and I was like, nope. I didn't even go to the car. I'm like, nope. I don't like the way it looks. I don't like
Right.
it. It's just too much work. We can't do all that. No.
Mhm.
Okay, now the flip side, if
Yes.
someone is buying a home, because I know there's a lot of buyers out there. We're coming on spring, hopefully. It's a nice summer day today, but it still is March here. What
Right.
can, if someone wants to buy a home, what 3 things should they look for or look out for, or just 3 tips that you can give?
Well, the first thing I'm going to tell them is they need to find a realtor. You don't want to go it alone.
They need to call Darlene.
And the realtor, yeah, they need to call me. The realtor is going to be your point person and your advocate. The realtor is going to hook you up with a lender. When you go to a lender and get pre-approved, and that lender may tell you you're pre-approved for a $400,000 house.
Right.
But if your comfort zone for a monthly payment is maybe $1,500 to $2,000, you need to tell the lender that. You need to express that, because then the lender is going to come back to me and say, Darlene, while they're able on paper to buy a $400,000 house, you might want to start looking around 250, because that's the comfort level for their monthly payment. I never want my buyers to be what I call house poor. I never
Sure.
want them to sink all their money into the house and then not be able to put drapes on the windows or furnish the house after they've moved in. You know, they'll be sleeping in sleeping bags because they can't afford to buy furniture.
Right.
So that's one thing that from a lender's perspective. And then on the home inspection, I tell them that no matter what comes up in the home inspection, you can ask the seller to fix anything in that report. But be forewarned that the seller will either agree to fix it all, fix some of it, or fix none of it. And you need to wrap your head around that to say, okay, if they're only willing to fix A, B, and C, am I willing to live with D and E and fix it myself later?
Right.
You need to be able to rationalize how much you really want the seller to do. You can ask for the world, but in most cases, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it all. So you have to be
Right.
very judicious about your requests.
Right. And as a seller, I don't have to fix anything that comes up, right? I can just say, nope, I'm selling it as is. That's it.
Correct. Yeah. And a lot of times we see that when somebody's selling an estate home.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of cases, the estate itself doesn't have the money to fix
Right.
whatever the issues are. The only thing you have to really worry about in those cases are when you have municipal like occupancy permits and things like that. If the municipality is not going to let you sell it because there are issues, then you need to get those types of things addressed.
Oh, okay. And this is why you need a realtor. This is why you shouldn't try to do it yourself.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Now, I mentioned your bio that you could sell a home anywhere in the world. Like, how does that work? If I say I want to live in Las Vegas, how could you find me a home in Las Vegas?
Well, basically, through Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, the preferred realty, we have a relocation network. We are in over 400 countries. And for example, last year I had some college friends whose daughter graduated from Duquesne and got a job down in the Tampa, Florida area. And they called me up and they said, are you able to help us find a townhouse for our daughter? And I said, absolutely. So I go through our relocation network. I identify a couple of agents. I vet them. I talk to them. I explain to them what my clients are looking for. And in this case, I hooked my college classmate up with an agent. She was down there literally for a weekend. And by Sunday night, when she was on the plane on the way back, she's texting me saying, I put in an offer and we're just
Wow.
hoping that it gets accepted. And fortunately for them, it did. And the transaction went through, and I touched base with them around the holidays, and she said, everything's great. It was a great transaction. So I can connect you with an agent anywhere in the world through our relocation network.
Right. And that's so important, Darlene, because I can Google, Florida real estate agents. I can do, I have no, and I could call someone that I recognize, a realty company that I recognize, whether it's, Berkshire Hathaway or some of the other ones out there, say, oh, okay, I recognize this name, but you don't know who you're getting that answers that call or that phone or whoever. So it's so important. It's so important to have someone vet them, and you come back and say, okay, well, this is a great person for you down there.
Yeah.
That's something I never ever would have thought of. So I'm glad that was in there, and I asked you that, because it's so important.
Even if you, like, for example, I have a cousin who lives in Kansas City. Even if he wanted to move across town, I could help him.
Okay. Right.
If he wanted my assistance. It doesn't matter how far you're moving. You could be moving down the block. But if you don't know anybody and you need resources, I'm happy to help.
Right. Otherwise, just luck of the draw, like whoever gets the call or whoever answers the phone, or I don't know how it works, but I guess it's whoever. Now, I mentioned that you do a lot of work with scholarships. How did all that get started?
Well, that all started when I was in college. When I was a junior at Duquesne, sadly, one of my classmates passed away suddenly and tragically. And it was around Christmas time, so I went home for the holiday break, and I was trying to rationalize, how am I going to turn this tragedy into something positive? So when I went back to campus that spring, I started raising money for a scholarship in his memory. And by the time I graduated in the spring of 1987, I had raised enough money to have it endowed so that it would be there in perpetuity, and I would only distribute the interest on an annual basis. Once I did that, other campus organizations were approaching me, and several years later, a classmate who lost her dad, who was a vendor to the university, her family approached me and said, would you be willing to help us administer this scholarship in my dad's memory? So it just kind of, over the last 35 years, has snowballed. And every organization that I'm involved in has a scholarship, some type of scholarship program, whether it's my Rotary Club or my Women's Guild at Duquesne University, or my performing arts organization that I support. So it just snowballed into 7 different groups. And for example, next week I'm starting, Berkshire Hathaway we have our own, it's called Dream, Innovate, and Grow. They started it about 4 years ago, and I was on the ground floor. I was in the beginning when they started it. We do 4 $1,000 scholarships every year, and it's across our entire market. So it includes Pennsylvania and Ohio. And the first year we did it, Denise, we got 850 applications. So we had to sift through 850 applications over weeks, and then come up with 3 winners.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but it's very fulfilling work for me.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure it is. I know, because you let up, you talk about it.
Yeah.
And you were saying $1,000. Some people say, oh, $1,000, but that could be life-changing for somebody that needs that scholarship. I mean, that's life-changing. And then you have 3 more scholarships that you're working on.
Yes.
This isn't news. I didn't know this. Is this breaking news only for BP audience?
Well, no, I've been working on them slowly but surely. The one that I want to put in place at Washington Jefferson College is in memory of a real estate colleague who was one of my best buds in my office. And he was an entrepreneur all his life. Not only was he a real estate agent, but his dad owned a wholesale candy business. So he was in the candy business with his dad, and he and his dad are in the National Candy Hall of Fame, which I never even knew existed. No. And I said, you know what? He deserves to be remembered. And he was a W&J grad. So that's why I'm going back to W&J to start that. The second one, there was a gentleman, businessman in Peters Township, who consistently and wholeheartedly supported the Washington City mission. And they are trying to put a program together with scholarships, so that, because part of their program is re-educating the residents to make a better life for themselves and a step forward. So we're trying to put something in place for them. And then the organization that I belong to, the Pittsburgh Elevated and Emerging Leaders organization, wants to put, they're about philanthropy, and they want to give back, and they want to put a program in place for, and we're actually having our first fundraiser for that in July. It's going to be a comedy night.
Oh, how fun.
So yeah, so we're working on that.
Yeah, keep me updated about that.
Mhm.
And also something that's not in your bio that I know, because I'm also part of it, is you're soon to be a published author, because we are both wrote a chapter in an anthology that's coming out.
Yes, I did. And my chapter is actually about embracing my friend's legacy. It's about my scholarship work. It's not about real estate or any of my professional work. It's about my scholarship work. So I'm really excited about that. That's the launch is coming up in a couple of weeks.
It'll be all over social media. There's 12 of us, so you'll see it everywhere, because everyone's going to be sharing it all.
Yeah.
So is this the first time you've written a book or participated in a book, Darlene?
In a book, yes, but for the last 8 or 10 years, I've been writing quarterly real estate industry insight articles for 2 community magazines. So I do write like magazine articles.
Right.
This is my first book, and not to be outdone, but I will hopefully am intending to have a second book by October. So we're
Oh,
getting started on that this month. That one is going to be centered around my breast cancer journey.
yes.
And it's also going to be an anthology. I'm going to have other authors in there telling their story, and we're basically just trying to pay it forward to help the next person through their journey.
That's wonderful. So are you gathering all the people and all the stories, or are you just participating?
I'm kind of the lead author, so
Okay,
I'm
so
gathering all the
thing. Right.
working with the same editor and and
Sure.
publisher that you and I did for the
Yes.
Unleashing Your Soul Level Magic book, but I'm kind of spearheading, gathering all the authors and getting them to start writing and submitting their stories.
Very exciting stuff, Darlene, going on. I was going to ask, so what's next for Darlene Cruth? But you just gave all those wonderful things and updates coming out. I didn't even know that. I'm like, what the heck? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that's this year. It's going to be a banner year, not only hopefully for my real estate career, but for my writing career.
Right. That's amazing. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Any final thoughts for the audience watching?
Just, that you had mentioned it earlier in the conversation, the purchase of a home is probably the largest financial purchase you're ever going to make in your lifetime. Whether you do it once, twice, or 3 times, each time it's going to be the biggest purchase of your life. Don't go it alone.
Yeah.
Have an advocate, hire a real estate agent. And what a lot of people don't know is real estate agents, at least in the state of Pennsylvania, our commissions are typically paid by the seller.
Okay.
So if I'm working
People
with
don't
you
know
as a
that, I guess.
buyer's agent, there's a small administrative fee that every broker charges, and that's all you would pay me to work with you as a buyer to walk you through the process. Typically, the seller pays the commission, unless sometimes if it's a foreclosure or it's a unique situation, it's a little bit different. But the majority of the time, the seller's paying the commission.
So, Darlene, if anyone is interested in buying or selling a home, and can they contact you to talk it over with you first, or like what would the process be?
The process would be just to have them reach out to me either by phone or email, and I would have an initial conversation with them, find out what their intentions are, what their timeline is, what they're looking for, and depending on whether it's a buyer or a seller, I would set up a listing appointment. I would not make any advice or guidance as to the marketability of their home until I saw it, until I walked through it and gave them some guidance that way. On the buyer side, I basically say, okay, if you haven't spoken to a lender yet, we don't even know what you can afford, so we need to start there. So I just start the ball rolling at that point.
And then there's no charge for that, right? Is that something that you do? That's before you sign the contract with them and everything.
Yes. Yeah. There's no, I don't get paid until I get to a closing table. Okay. So there's no fee for any of my advice or guidance until I get to the closing table, and then I get paid.
Right. Because sometimes we don't know. We think our house is worth so much, and then someone comes in and says, well, there's some work that needs done. And
Yeah,
We think we can afford something more, but we can't. So that's why it's so important.
absolutely.
Darlene, thank you for, again, always supporting all your friends and coming out to all the events and everything, and being so active with all these scholarships and the funds, and just being the realtor that you are, and so genuine and credible and caring about your clients.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I enjoy supporting my networking partners, you being one of them. So, and I appreciate you inviting me onto the show.
Oh, no, I really appreciate the information you gave. And I know the audience watching, and we'll have your contact information. So they can contact you by phone. I know you're on Facebook,
Mhm.
and they can get a hold of you if they need to.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Darlene.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for watching today's episode of Empowering You. I would like to thank my guest, Darlene Baruso-Kruth. Darlene gave great tips whether you're buying or selling your home in today's economy. She gave some tips to get the most for your buck when you're buying a home, or the most money for your home. She also talked about how important it is to help her clients, and also her work on nonprofit boards. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.